Thank you for being with us on this late Thursday evening on Spectrum News 1. I'm meteorologist Nikki Petras. We've been monitoring over the last hour or so an evolving severe weather situation across far northwestern Wisconsin. We are now looking at a tornado warning that has been issued for one of these severe thunderstorm cells. Let's take a closer look. A very messy scene on radar. I'm going to remove all of the rain, remove all of the lightning that you can see, and just show you all the warnings that we have in effect. All the yellow, various severe thunderstorm warnings that we have for the next several minutes here, and we'll see more of those issued as the night moves on. But the one area in red, we'll zoom in a bit closer here, give you the details about it, then take a better look at radar and the reason behind this severe thunderstorm warning and the tornado warning that we have in effect right now. It's going to look at what's been issued and what we have to deal with here until 5 o'clock this Thursday, late afternoon, early evening. For Ashland, Bayfield, and Sawyer counties, we have a radar-indicated tornado warning for this severe thunderstorm cell. Let's go ahead, remove this information box, throw the radar back on, and take a closer look at what we're seeing embedded in radar here for why this might have been issued. I can see something quite obvious here for a signature of potentially where that tornado might be located embedded in the cell. Right to the north of Round Lake on our precipitation product here, you can see a bit of a notch of green around the red, the orange, the pink, signs of heavier rainfall. This notch could be an indication of wind sort of inflowing into the thunderstorm and potentially leading to rotation that we've seen this tornado warning issued for. Let's take a different look at a different product here. Look at our velocity product. This gives us an idea of sort of what we're looking at in wind direction inside of a severe thunderstorm. We saw that inflow of where we could be seeing wind entering the storm, and now we're looking inside the storm at wind direction. Now let's take a bit of a slide over here on radar to what we're seeing here, this indication of greens and reds tightly clustered together. When you see those colors on radar, what we're looking at right now, it's not rainfall. Again, it's wind direction. Green and red represent different directions. When you have the greens and reds close together on radar, that could indicate that winds are traveling in different directions and potentially leading to some rotation in this cell right to the very northeast of Lenroot. Let's play the radar out here and see if we can see potentially how this area of rotation has been moving over the past several minutes. You can see sort of coming out of the left side of the screen, sort of an evolving tight cluster of greens and reds, that indication of potential rotation, likely why the National Weather Service has issued this tornado warning. Again, far northwestern Wisconsin. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're talking about when it comes to that warning. If you're just joining us now, we do have a tornado warning issued. Again, difficult to see with all the rainfall embedded here on radar. But the warning box here is this extent of red further off east past Spider Lake, past Round Lake, Ashland, Bayfield, and Sawyer counties until 5 o'clock this Thursday early evening. We're monitoring an evolving severe weather situation across far northwestern Wisconsin. And now we do have a tornado warning issued for this one storm cell that has been one of the most destructive that we've seen so far in this late afternoon into the early evening. Let's reset the radar, jump back out, take a look at what's going on across the state. You can see northeastern Wisconsin, north central Wisconsin, still rather quiet, but watching what's evolving north and west. It's going to be a very active night ahead across the state of Wisconsin as this line evolves further off south and east as the night moves forward. We do have right now in effect a severe thunderstorm watch for all the counties in blue until 9 o'clock this evening. Indication from the Weather Service that there is forcing elements in the atmosphere to fire off more of these storms as the night moves on. And embedded in these storms right now is that tornado warning that is in effect until 5 o'clock for some of our counties in far northwestern Wisconsin. Let's zoom back in, take a closer look at that tornado warned storm cell. Again, hard to see on radar because of just how active it is across the state at this hour. Let's take away the rain and again show you where that warning box has been drawn for, including Round Lake, south of Cable. Let's go ahead and zoom a bit closer in, see if we can pick up on more towns, more streets, more areas right near Spider Lake. Napakangan, I believe is how you would say that there, that town further into parts of Bayfield County. We're watching this storm push further off to the east over the next several minutes here. Indication of rotation in this storm, why the Weather Service has issued this warning. Let's zoom in a bit closer and see if we can pick out any more streets. We have the county line right here, 77, again, south of Spider Lake, this storm evolving further off to the east. Zoom back out here. Let's see if we can take a closer look at what we're looking at when it comes to the storm itself. Let's throw rain back on and see how it's evolving. You can see potentially heavy rainfall. We're looking at significant lightning and significant hail with this severe thunderstorm that has now been issued this tornado warning. Again, this storm cell has been one of the most destructive that we've seen evolve so far this late afternoon across northern Wisconsin. You can see areas here of greens embedded within more of the red, the yellow. That could be indication of location of rotation in the storm, sort of that absence of rainfall on our rain product, which is where there could be more of a sign of that rotation. This right here shows you the idea of, again, that wind direction embedded in this severe thunderstorm. And as I pointed out before on that previous velocity product, our wind product, an area that you can see here of more tightly coupled greens, even these brighter blues, those are really significantly strong winds that we're seeing right now. And red, that's an indication to meteorologists of potentially rotation inside of a severe thunderstorm. Again, the reason for this tornado warning being issued. Let's zoom in closer and see if we can take a look at those wind speeds. I can go ahead and sample this here and see if I can get an estimation of wind right now aloft in the storm cell, because as the radar beam shoots out from the radar site up near Duluth, we're looking at this far northern part of the state. We're getting sort of the upper levels of the atmosphere where we're slicing through the storm with the radar beam to indicate what we're talking about when it comes to wind speed, direction, rainfall rates. Looking at winds aloft in the storm cell, potentially right around that center of rotation, around 43 miles per hour. Again, let's take a look a bit closer, tightly to that rotation. Aloft, we're seeing wind speeds of 65 miles per hour, slightly closer to that main center of rotation. So we're likely talking stronger winds closer to the surface, and monitoring how this storm is evolving. You could see the weather service just in the last moment here shifted that warning box ever so slightly, likely by what they're seeing of how this rotation is evolving. Again, still right to the north and west of Round Lake, north and east of Hayward. Hayward not in the direct impact of this tornado warning, though there is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect, including Hayward and areas further off to the west as we see these storms evolve over the next several minutes. And in that right area there, let's play out the radar and see how that's been evolving over the last several minutes here. You can see sort of in the last few minutes how the radar has sort of indicated this tighter sort of agreement of what we're seeing with greens and reds, difference in wind direction, indicating rotation. And again, right to the north of Round Lake is where we're mainly focused on the potential for this tornado. Not seeing anything coming in just yet from the Weather Service when it comes to any spotters, any indication of anything actually observed with this tornado warning, just the indication still on radar. Looking at still a damage threat, a considerable hail threat inside this severe thunderstorm and this tornado warn cell. We also have significant hail outside of this main center of rotation. We can look at that too on radar, sort of removing the wind speed, removing the rain, a different radar product here. What we're looking at now is the inside of the thunderstorm in the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is potentially hail that is aloft inside of the storm cell. And you can imagine, as you see these darker colors of reds, of pinks, of yellows, a sign of some rather large hail. And if we zoom out and compare this storm cell, again, north of Round Lake, south of Cable, to others that we have across northwestern Wisconsin, still some considerable hail. Others that we're watching into parts of Iron County, close to Vilas County, just to the east of Ashland, also significant hail. And we're likely looking at that storm cell being warned as well. Again, a number in effect of severe thunderstorm warnings. One tornado warning right now. In this warning box, it's yellow shaded in, but the orange outline indicates that there might be more rotation observed in a different storm cell that the Weather Service is monitoring for maybe another tornado warning coming our way over the next several minutes, depending on how that storm begins to evolve and the genesis of these storms over the next several minutes to hours here across far northwestern Wisconsin. If you're just joining us, we are monitoring a severe weather situation across far northwestern Wisconsin late on this Thursday afternoon, moving into the early evening. I'm meteorologist Nikki Petras here, monitoring it in the Spectrum News 1 Weather Center. A very messy day on radar. We're talking rainfall rates potentially of up to 3 inches per hour in some of these storm cells, significant lightning, large hail, gusty damaging winds, and this tornado warning. Again, hard to pick out with just how much activity there is on radar. I want to take a moment and talk about lightning. These storms have lots and lots of energy. I've removed off all the rain, all the warning boxes to just indicate the amount of lightning strikes that we've seen across northern Wisconsin over the last 15 minutes. So just take a look at all of those lightning strikes. Let's select that storm cell that has the tornado warning associated with it. And over the last 15 minutes, over 600 lightning strikes with this storm cell. That other severe warn storm north into parts of Ashland, Iron, Vilas counties, we're looking at over 350 lightning strikes, and still active weather in parts of Minnesota and further west into parts of northern Wisconsin that we're monitoring as the night moves on. Let's again talk about that tornado warning. Throw radar back on to show you what we're looking at when it comes to active rainfall and that one storm cell. Again, difficult to see where that warning box is because of just how active a day it is on radar. But again, I'll zoom in a bit closer here. You can see this yellow outline, Cable, Hayward, Round Lake, an orange outline further north, and then there is this red outline here. That is the tornado warning in effect. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, see if there's been any adjustments by the National Weather Service. Still until 5 o'clock this Thursday evening. Round Lake and Spider Lake now the main cities impacted. Ashland, Bayfield, and Sawyer counties, the storm moving off to the east at this hour. The Weather Service also indicating that we're looking at a storm moving with this tornado warning. I'm looking at, we have a chat channel here of correspondence with the Weather Service. They're letting us know what they're seeing on radar, relaying these warnings to us, and also if there's been any sort of spotter indication, any boots on the ground observing these storms, provide more details as to where the storm is at, where it's going, any observed threats that are associated with it. Right now, what we're seeing is that there is a large tornado potentially 7 miles east of Sealy, 12 miles north of Chippewa, following west, moving east at 30 miles per hour. So let's go ahead, zoom in a bit closer to this tornado warn cell. If I can get this radar to work here. Okay, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and remove radar and just show you again where this warning box is located. Round Lake, Spider Lake, the storm moving due eastward about 30 miles per hour. I'm going to go ahead and show you what we're looking at when it comes to rotation inside of this storm cell. Again, this product here is showing you the indication of wind direction embedded in the storm. And when we see these areas of greens and reds, red and green showing different direction of wind, where there could be the indication of a tornado that, again, Weather Service is relaying to us here with this tornado warning that's in effect right now. I can take this tool and draw a line due east at 30 miles per hour. Let's see. And get an idea of how this storm will be moving over the next several minutes. Hopefully I can get the radar to produce some town names here to know where that we're headed. 449, we're keeping an eye. 443 now could be clipping the far southern part of Spider Lake as this storm moves eastward at 30 miles per hour. No major cities in the due path of this storm, but still Round Lake to the south of the main center of rotation. Still significant hail in this severe thunderstorm warn cell surrounding the tornado warning. And we're looking at what's been potentially reported as a seriously or extremely dangerous tornado as reported by the National Weather Service, 7 miles east of Sealy, 12 miles north of Chippewa, following west, moving east at about 30 miles per hour. So if you know anybody up in this way toward Round Lake, into parts of Bayfield, Sawyer counties, let them know. If you're watching us here on Spectrum News 1, this is a immediate need to sort of take caution and be prepared. We're looking at a significant storm cell with a tornado produced from it that could be leading to significant damage, life-threatening damage potentially. If you're joining us here, if you're in Spider Lake, you're in Round Lake, Hunter, any of these areas, let's go ahead and zoom back out to the state, reset the radar, and take a look at what's going on with all of the active weather. If you know anybody up in far northwestern Wisconsin, if you're joining us from up there, a good time now to head indoors or head into an interior room in your home. A basement or the first level of your home is preferred, away from windows. Find a safe spot to be sticking with us here on Spectrum News 1 as we monitor the evolving severe weather situation that is becoming quite active in far northwestern Wisconsin. I'll move right a bit here to kind of talk about all the various other warnings that we have in effect. Again, the one tornado warning that we have is for parts of Sawyer, parts of Bayfield and Douglas counties until 5 o'clock this Thursday early evening, looking at potentially some rotation, a larger tornado indicated by radar heading toward Round Lake at 30 miles per hour here. So we're watching that situation now. But I also want to talk about a number of other active weather issues that we're monitoring across far northwestern Wisconsin. We have several severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. Let's take a look at what we have outside of this tornado warn cell. We do have one severe thunderstorm warning until 5:15 for Ashland and Iron counties. We have the cities of Hurley, Kimball, Montreal, and Saxon inside of this severe thunderstorm warning. Again, if you're joining us from those areas, be sure to, again, just like the tornado warning, head to an interior room in your home. Find a way to avoid windows, head to the basement if you have one, if possible. The other warnings in effect, again, the tornado warning, I'm going to select that here inside that storm cell until 5 o'clock. Round Lake and Spider Lake, Round Lake on the southern extent of this tornado warning. Spider Lake more in the direct path. Ashland, Bayfield, and Sawyer counties, again, the radar indication of a larger tornado. We're seeing that indication of rotation inside of the storm cell. Again, that warning in effect until 5 o'clock. Others to mention to you, we still have a severe thunderstorm warning for other portions of that cell where we're not seeing rotation. Including cities of Cable, Hayward, Lenroot, and Round Lake, still Bayfield and Sawyer counties, looking at potentially some extremely large hail. We're talking a tornado warning now, but as the day goes on, keep in mind, we're going to be mainly focusing on large hail and damaging winds. There have been some reports from some of these severe thunderstorm warn cells of 2 to almost 3 inch in diameter size hail. That's almost baseball size hail coming from these storms. Extremely dangerous and extremely damaging outside of the tornado warning. So we're monitoring the potential for that rotation, but also the other severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. And this larger one just drawn by the National Weather Service. Again, hard to sort of see with the radar product on. So I'm just showing you where the warnings are at and what we're talking about when it comes to the active weather over the next several hours here. Ashland, Bayfield, Iron, Price, and Sawyer counties, cities of Hayward, Lake, Lenroot, and Park Falls. This is the same storm cell that we're looking at rotation potentially and that tornado warning. But additionally, we have considerable wind gusts, upwards of 60 miles per hour. And again, that considerable hail risk. That's going to be the main story as the afternoon moves into the evening of large damaging hail at times between 2 to 3 inches in diameter. Again, that's roughly baseball size hail that we're watching as the day evolves. Let's go ahead, throw radar back on the rain product and show you just how active of a day it is. There is significant lightning coming from the storm cell. Again, I'm looking up to my left here to see what's coming in from the National Weather Service. Still the same message with that tornado warning. We're looking at a considerable threat with this storm. Hail potentially of upwards of 2.5 inches, and that possible tornado is moving to the east of Sealy at 30 miles per hour. North of Chippewa flowage, so we're watching that as well, in addition to all the other severe warned storms across far northwestern Wisconsin. I'm going to again select the velocity product and our wind product, wind speed and direction inside of the storm cell. This is one of the main ways that meteorologists can identify potential rotation inside of storms. These colors, the reds and the greens, represent difference in wind direction. Green is going a different direction than red. So imagine if you're looking at a splice in the atmosphere from the radar beam and you're seeing winds traveling in opposite direction, that could be indication of rotation. And that's what we're still seeing here. Right to the due west of Spider Lake, the main center of potential rotation is to the due northwest of Round Lake. And again, we're looking at potentially some significant hail and lightning in areas outside of that main center of rotation. Let's talk lightning for a moment here. You can even see on the velocity product how much is popping up, but just lightning. I mean, unbelievable amounts of lightning in these storm cells. I'm going to just select a small portion here in the areas inside that tornado warning from Spider Lake to Round Lake. In the last 15 minutes, over 200 lightning strikes. And you can see as more continue to strike, you can see popping up on radar just how much is actively happening with the storm cell. So we have lots of threats to consider today. Large hail, gusty damaging winds. Right now, also potential for a tornado with that indicated rotation on radar. And then significant lightning that could be a threat to trees, to power lines, especially to humans, people. If you're outside and you know folks enjoying a Thursday, a very hot and steamy Thursday across northern Wisconsin. That has been the main issue fueling these storms, how hot and humid it has been across the state. Several parts of Wisconsin under heat advisory still until 8 o'clock tonight. That's again adding fuel to the fire for these storms. Let's go ahead and reset the radar and take a look at what's been evolving over the last several minutes here across northern Wisconsin. A large warning box drawn for that same storm cell in which the tornado warning is issued. Let's go ahead and zoom back in and take a closer look on radar of that warning. And what we're talking about, still, if it's the same counties, you can see some adjustment here from the National Weather Service. I can take away radar and just show you the warnings. Smaller red box as the potential area of rotation moves further off to the east. And let's go ahead and talk about that warning, see when it's in effect until, and what areas it's impacting. 5 o'clock still with this tornado warning, monitoring mainly Spider Lake. We just talked about that a moment ago, sort of right in the direct line of where that rotation could be indicated. Ashland, Bayfield, Sawyer counties inside this warning polygon. But again, if we go ahead and select the rotation portion of radar, or wind portion indicating rotation, there could be potentially some improvement here compared to a few moments ago. Zooming back out to show you what it comes to with those wind speeds on radar. Let's play out the radar here over the last hour. And you can see, again, it's a little choppy, but there's a portion here just outside the warning box. There was a bit more of a tighter couplet of red and green, stronger wind speeds and more indication of stronger rotation. Now, over the last few minutes here, there does look to be an appearance of slightly less obvious, tightly coupled rotation. So that could be a good sign that at least the tornado threat is beginning to diminish. However, there is still a lot of concern with all of these storms. Again, lightning, damaging winds that are not tornadic, just straight line winds upwards of 60 miles per hour, and significantly large hail. 2 to 3 inches in diameter, so the Weather Service has come out to say could be our main risk with these storms evolving throughout this afternoon. And on top of that, we could be seeing rainfall rates at times 1 to 2, if not 3 inches per hour in areas that saw earlier rain today from non-severe storms as Thursday began. So lots to keep an eye on, lots to monitor. Again, here's Spider Lake. You can see just right in that dead center of this warning polygon. I'm going to zoom in a bit and see if we can see more areas right along 77 here between Round Lake and Spider Lake. Watching this area here for potential rotation inside of the storm cell. I'm going to go ahead and sort of spin around here and see if I can see more of what's happening in other parts of the storm cell. If there's any more areas that could be rotating. Again, this main sort of center here is where I think the Weather Service is most actively focusing on. Look on radar for any more indication of any sign of rotation. Earlier we saw more of an inflow notch, a sign on the rain product of radar where there could be winds entering the storm cell and helping to enhance rotation. Not seeing that as much now, so that could be one more indication of potentially that rotation beginning to diminish. However, still a significant storm to monitor over the next several hours here across northern Wisconsin. If we go ahead and take a look at the hail inside of this storm cell, I got to zoom out a bit more here so you can see a better idea of how significant the hail could be inside of this storm. What we're looking at now, this is not rain, this is not wind direction. This is potential hail aloft. It means higher up in the atmosphere, up in the sky, essentially inside of this storm cell that could be eventually reaching the ground and causing damage. When you see this large area of orange and yellow, fortunately, we're not seeing any significant pinks, reds. That's the next level of intensity inside of this radar product. But this is an indication of still some large, significant hail. I'm looking up to my left again to see if there's any indication from the Weather Service of any additional warnings that have been issued or any additional information coming from that tornado warning. Still until 5 o'clock, still monitoring, again, parts of Ashland, Bayfield, and Sawyer counties. Again, we're looking about 8 miles southeast of Nabokong Lake, 12 miles north of Chippewa Flowage East, moving east still at 30 miles per hour. Let's zoom back out and see if we can get a closer look, or a more wide look, I should say, a closer look at the bigger picture of what's happening across the state right now. Compared to the other cells that we're monitoring that are under severe thunderstorm warnings, we're looking at this one cell, again, the largest cell that we've seen evolve over the past hour or so with the tornado warning associated, is the potential for some larger hail, significant lightning, heavy rainfall, and additionally, still that tornado warning, which I believe is still in effect. But let me take a moment here. I think there has been an update from the Weather Service, and I believe there will be some change that comes our way over the next few minutes here when it comes to this tornado warning. And I was mentioning to you a moment ago, those indications of potential rotation that we look for as meteorologists on radar. And that compared to, it's difficult again to see with all of this lightning, which is a very significant risk, that the obvious area of really tight rotation that could indicate a tornado has begun to diminish a bit here. So there is indication from the Weather Service that we're likely not going to be seeing a continued tornado warning. Still monitoring the cell right now, and it still is in effect for the next few minutes here until 5 o'clock. Again, still watching Round Lake to Spider Lake, and still significant wind, lightning, hail, and rainfall in these storms, but in improving conditions when it comes to that tornado. So let's take a look real quick as we still have this warning in effect for the next 6 minutes at the other storms that are across far northwestern Wisconsin. A very large drawn polygon for that one storm cell that has been the one of most concern so far this early evening, I should say, reaching close to 5 o'clock here in far northwestern Wisconsin, is hail, heavy rain, damaging winds, and significant lightning. We're noticing less rotation when it comes to this tornado warning, but there are still a number of other severe thunderstorms to keep an eye on over the next several minutes to hours as this line evolves further east as the evening moves in. The red box, again, that tornado warning still in effect until 5 o'clock, so 5 more minutes here. So we're watching what the Weather Service is going to do with that over the next few minutes here. Elsewhere, though, we do have some severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. This one until 5:15. Hurley, Kimball, Montreal, and Saxon, and Ashland and Iron counties. The main risk, as I mentioned earlier, and will be for the rest of this evening, considerable hail, rainfall, that could lead to potential flooding and significant lightning. That one in effect, and again until 5:15. This larger warning has been drawn, extending from this cell that produced potentially a tornado. This one until 5:30. Same Ashland, Bayfield, Iron, Price, and Sawyer counties. The cities of Hayward, Lake, Ledru, and Park Falls. Considerable threat, largely due to some significant hail embedded in this severe thunderstorm. And this smaller warning box, another area of concern, likely be expiring at 5 o'clock, just like that tornado warning. Cities of Cable, Hayward, Lenroot, and Round Lake, Bayfield, and Sawyer counties, as we go through the next few minutes here and monitor what's going on with this tornado warning that we have coming up. So I'm actually going to go ahead here, take a look at radar and see what we're looking at. Significant for us here as we look ahead to this evening of what's to evolve. But I do believe that with what we're getting from the National Weather Service here is that we're no longer going to be having to monitor this tornado warning over the next few minutes. If I can go ahead and zoom in, take a closer look at rotation embedded in this storm cell. Select a new product on velocity. Not quite the same signature as before of that tightly wound green and red, a sign of rotation. We can even go ahead and take a look at a different product here. This is something that can show us potentially any absence of rain that could be an area of rotation embedded in a storm cell, and not seeing that here on this radar product. So as we get closer to 5 o'clock, I think we can go ahead and sign off here, return to just normal severe thunderstorm coverage over the next several minutes. Again, we're monitoring this severe thunderstorm warning, this tornado warning likely expiring here in the next few moments here. Not seeing any more indication of any potential rotation, no indication from any spotters or any people who could be out observing the storm, relaying information from the National Weather Service. So I'm going to go ahead here, and if I can pan back out to get a closer look at what we have across the state. See what's going on mainly in far northwestern Wisconsin. We do have an evolving severe weather situation. What we have mainly across other parts of the state, quiet weather so far. So time to monitor what's happening in far northwestern Wisconsin as this line will evolve further south and east slowly as the night moves on. Significant hail, lightning, damaging winds, and intense rainfall, the main threats as the evening moves on. So I'm going to go ahead here, actually step off for a moment, show you a closer look at radar here, and give you a better idea of what we're looking at when it comes to the situation evolving across the state. Let's go ahead here, if I can see what's happening, and go ahead, speak to Master Control back in Albany, if we can get on the line here too, if we can go ahead and start to return to regular programming. We're winding down here, not needing to stay on air from wall to wall, as the tornado warning has expired, and we're looking at that beginning to wind down here over the next couple seconds or so. So if we can jump back into regular programming and get a better idea of what we're looking at here on Spectrum News 1, we'll monitor as they go throughout the day. Keep it here on Spectrum News 1.